What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that the weekend has been treating you kindly. Today is Sunday, August the 24th, 2025, and we have, at this moment in time, 11 days to go until the Cowboys kick off on the road in week one against the Philadelphia Eagles. But on a much more short-term basis, we have 2 days until the Dallas Cowboys have to finalize their official 53-man roster. That word's doing a lot of lifting, and we'll get to that in a moment here. We're going to be talking about my 53-man roster prediction here today. I'm going to be wrong. I promise you. That's just kind of the way these things go. If you're new around here, welcome. Love you. Like the video. Subscribe. My name's RJ Ochoa. I've been covering the Cowboys professionally for about a decade now. I'm on any level of social media. I promise if you're there, just search for RJ Ochoa and you can find me. Got daily videos here, live shows, live post-game shows, all sorts of fun interviews that drop from time to time with Cowboys-related people, former Cowboys players, and even every now and then a bit of a curveball. This week, tomorrow on Monday, I got an interview with Thurman Thomas finally dropping here on the channel, and it was a very, very fun conversation that had a lot of Cowboys slants to it, so I think it's something that you're all going to enjoy. But as mentioned, today we're going to be talking Dallas Cowboys 53-man roster prediction. Every single team in the NFL has to be down to their final 53 by 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, August the 26th. Now, the reality to every 53-man roster, not just for the Cowboys, but for every single team, is there will be changes. The final 53-man roster that we see on Tuesday afternoon will in no way be final. There will be about, I would say, 48 to 72 hours of dust settling, of processes, of different characterizations and, slotting of players here and there that will happen, stashing players, et cetera, so that the Cowboys can ultimately put together call it what you want, 60 to 65 loose players within their overall control, for lack of better words, so that they can officially and fully get set to head into week one. There are different mechanisms that are a part of how you get to your 53-man roster, and one of the biggest is injured reserve. Now, if you have a player, if you're a team, right, that has a player, let's use Jonathan Mingo as an example, who's hurt, but not hurt so badly that he's going to be out for an extended period of time. DeMarvion Overshown to be an example of that. But Jonathan Mingo, when he hurt himself a week and a half ago at this point, or maybe not a week and a half, but about 8 days ago, 4 to 6 weeks is the reported time frame. So it's been a week, right? But obviously the season's in 2 weeks, and so it's this kind of weird gray area where you don't know exactly what to do. Well, a great option, obviously, for players like that is to put them on injured reserve when the season starts, because when a player is on injured reserve, and this happens at any point in the season, they must miss 4 games. But in Jonathan Mingo's case, that kind of lines up with exactly, what his recovery time frame looks like, right? If he were to miss the first 4 games of the season. The trouble, the issue, the technicality within that is that Jonathan Mingo must be on the initial, in this hypothetical 53-man roster, to be placed on injured reserve to be eligible to return during the season. Does that make sense? If you were to put Jonathan Mingo on injured reserve right now, that would not be the case. Although, as I say that, there are 2 players. You can have 2 players who you apply that designation to. So you see how I'm saying this can get very complicated, and that's why when you see the final 53-man roster on Tuesday, just take it with several grains of salt, because there will be lots of changes, like I said, as the week continues to unfold. Let's go ahead, though, and get to my 53-man roster prediction. There are 53-man roster predictions all over the place right now. I mean, my goal is to read 53 this year. I think I've read like 19 to this point. So if you have a 53-man roster prediction, I want to see it. What you're looking at right now is the offensive side of how I'd have things going. We talked about this in the live post-game show on Friday night. And by the way, I'm back in my office, had construction. That's why the background was different for a few days. But I've got 3 quarterbacks. And what we talked about was, it's silly. I know that there are some of you, once upon a time, it made sense I advocated and argued for only carrying 2 quarterbacks on an NFL roster, on the Cowboys roster, but the rules are such nowadays that you would be silly to not carry 3 quarterbacks. And if you need an explainer on that, I'm happy to provide it. But I promise you the Cowboys will carry 3 quarterbacks, and you want that third one because they are an emergency sort of player, thanks to the 49ers rule from a couple of years ago, to have an understanding of the playbook, and that's why I don't think Will Grier is going anywhere. I do have 4 running backs on the team. This is my first point, and I want to say this right now. I'm going to be wrong. when it comes to 53-man roster predictions, we are all going to be wrong. And some of that is the calculus of the weird designations and weird stashing and weird, hoops that the Cowboys are trying to jump through. But we are all going to be wrong. I don't know that this is like filling out a March Madness bracket, but it's pretty similar in terms of difficulty. Now, there are a lot of chalk things that you can ultimately kind of derive as it relates to the Cowboys 53-man roster. But I promise you, the one player who you're like, that is a lock, or the one person who you're like, there's no way, I just don't see it. We are going to be wrong. And it's okay. You have to embrace it. That's just part of, the madness of this particular time of year. Okay, let's get back to it. So I've got 4 running backs. And like I said, this is kind of my first point when I was putting this together where I struggled because I have the Cowboys carrying 4 running backs and a fullback, obviously, in Hunter Lipke. So that's 5 overall players who I'm accounting for in the backfield: Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. And let me be very clear here, right? This is my prediction, not what my 53 would look like, right? Like I'm trying to predict what I think the Cowboys are going to do. That's my job. And I think the Cowboys are going to carry both Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. I think that you can. I think that we all have made an argument that you don't need to do that. But as you can see, I am ensuring that the Cowboys are going to carry both Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa. Now, I'm putting this together for you on Sunday morning-ish, right before 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, and it was reported Sunday morning that Jaden Blue suffered a low ankle sprain during the game on Friday night and that he is looking to get back in week 1. I do wonder, like, if we're really pontificating, if we're exploring potential options, is that ankle injury hypothetically serious enough that the Cowboys stash him on injured reserve early, and that's how Phil Maffa makes this group, and then there's only 3 running backs? Is that where Miles Sanders comes into play? If that hypothetical comes to pass, and let me be very clear, I'm just spitballing, I'm just throwing out, because there are those weird curveballs that come with 53-man rosters. Is that why Miles Sanders makes the initial roster, so that Jaden Blue can be on ice and fully heal, and then after the 4 weeks are up, when he's back off of IR, again, hypothetically speaking, Miles Sanders is out, Jaden Blue's in, Phil Maffa's there, and Javonte Williams, and that's why you have your 3 at that point in time. It's one possible outcome. We don't know, but I am going to be very upset. Let me put this well on record. I want the record to show that if the Cowboys do not carry both Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa on the 53-man roster, that it will be upsetting. I mean this with zero disrespect to Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders, but there is no reason, there are no pros to keeping either of them over either rookie running back. The Cowboys have 4 years of team control over Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa. They're young running backs. This is a position where the NFL has proven time and time again where you can get production from players on rookie contracts over and over and over. Obviously, there are exceptions, not trying to get too far into the weeds here, but there is zero reason, based on everything that we know, everything that we've seen, everything that's been documented, everything that is evidence-based to this exact point, there is no reason to carry 3 running backs or 2 running backs on this team that are not the 2 rookies. Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa absolutely each have to have spots on this final 53-man roster, or I think you, am going to be pissed. Let's get back to the 53-man roster prediction, though. As you can see, I've got the 4 running backs and Hunter Lipke. I have 5 receivers, and this is where it's kind of complicated. And I brought up Jonathan Mingo as the example, but I've got CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Kevontae Turpin, Jalen Tolbert. I think those 4 are absolutely safe. I think the 5th one is where, if you look at my 53, if you look at anybody's 53, if you have your own 53, like that's the inflection point. That's where people disagree. That's where people debate. That's where maybe you have Trayshawn Holden, maybe you have Jalen Brooks. I've got Ryan Flournoy there. In this hypothetical, I would assume that Trayshawn Holden makes it to the practice squad. We always fear, like, let's also say this, just a public disclaimer. There is always that player, whoever it is, there's always that player who I think there is just no way. It is an impossibility that they're going to make it to the Dallas Cowboys practice squad. And then they wind up making it to the practice squad. The construction of a 53-man roster can be stressful. And I say that, in a way that is silly, because it's ultimately very, very, very stressful for the people involved. It's the most stressful for them. It's an incredibly difficult process. But the person who you are very, very, very alarmed isn't going to make it to the final 53-man, to the practice squad. It's more than likely that they're going to. I would invite you to offer me the last time there was a player who the Cowboys cut that you were concerned wouldn't make it to the practice squad, and then they didn't, and they were claimed or poached or found by another team, and you've been pissed off about the whole thing ever since. I don't think that example exists. Okay, let's keep going, though. So in this world, I'm kind of cheating here. Like, this is actually 54 players if you really think about it, because the Cowboys, as noted, either would have to carry Jonathan Mingo at the beginning, and he would therefore be a part of the 53-man roster to place him on injured reserve, or they would have to place him on beforehand. And that hasn't happened at this point in time. So that's why, I'm just allotting for that hypothetical. At tight end, I've got 4. This feels pretty chalk. Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker, Brevin Spanford, and Princeton Fant. I don't think we have any real discussions or disagreements there. Offensive line, the Tyler Guyton thing, again, maybe he's a candidate for injured reserve. We don't know. Maybe the Cowboys. The thing about, I know I just repeated myself, but the thing about, there's a third time, putting a player on injured reserve is they must miss 4 games. So you have to play that dance. You have to play that game. Are you, is there a world where the Cowboys feel like Tyler Guyton could return before 4 games have passed? Then you have to consider not placing him on injured reserve. Are you confident that he is absolutely going to need those first 4 weeks to continue to heal and continue to get right and continue to fully, become ready to then take on the rest of the regular season? That's a difficult question to answer. So as it relates to which players are ultimately going to wind up on injured reserve and how many, from a quantitative standpoint, roster spots that's ultimately going to clear up, you do have to evaluate. Obviously, the Cowboys are the people we're talking about in this particular situation. They do have to ultimately evaluate, okay, if we're going to place this player on injured reserve, they are out for 4 games. Do we think they're going to miss that much time, or are we confident they can get back before then? Trayvon Diggs is an example of someone who reportedly the Cowboys feel like, may not need that much time. Brian Schottenheimer talking in a conference call with members of the local media on Saturday about how it looks like he's going to be on the 53-man roster, not the PUP list to start the season. That's an example of where the Cowboys might feel like, he may need to only miss 1 or 2 weeks. So we don't want to go that route. We don't want to miss him for what would be the minimum requirement in that particular point in time. So that's an interesting question to ponder as things relate, as an example, to Tyler Guyton. Let's get back to it. So offensively, you can see, because you can read, I've got 26 total players here. That feels like a lot. I'll give you a moment to kind of pause and take a second. So let's see here. There's nobody, like, this isn't a live show. It's a recorded one. It's just an excuse for me to drink some coffee. So, all right. It's a cold brew. Let's get to defense and special teams. So I've got 26, 24 defense. That's 50. And then my 3 specialists, which takes me to 53. Now, as it relates to specialists, just kind of quickly have this conversation. I would imagine the Cowboys probably cut Brian Anger, cut Trent Sieg. You will not see them. This is a prediction that they will not be on the initial, like, there are players, like, remember this. There are players who the Cowboys are going to cut and not have on their final 53-man roster who are absolutely going to be a part of the 53-man roster. It's just the procedural part of putting this thing together. It's the way of stashing players and making sure you don't cut this guy and making sure you can get this guy on injured reserve. You have to carry this guy, whatever. So there will be multiple, I would imagine, players who the Cowboys will cut, will move on from, will not be a part of the 53-man roster on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, that we all know, that they know, that there's an agreement with, will ultimately, absolutely, 100% unequivocally wind up on the team when it's all said and done. So that being said, I think Trent Sieg is an example of a player who will get cut that will ultimately be brought back. We see this a lot with specialists and players like that. Will Greer might be another one. Like that. There are players, there are examples of that we've seen over time. So defensively, I've got 6 pass rushers. Call them what you want. I've got Micah Parsons. We're not going to waste time there. That makes sense, right? Marshall, this is my favorite part of the team. I think that goes without saying, and that's crazy given that on offense, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are, both in the wide receiver room. But Micah Parsons, Marshawn Nealon, Sam Williams, Dante Fowler, Donovan Ezraku, Peyton Turner, and I'm like, whatever. If you want to be mad at me, that's fine. But I do not have James Houston on my 53. This is where I'm. Remember, this will be wrong. There will be weird twists. Like, there might be something that they might sneak him on there. That might be, the IR guy that we're not predicting, that we're not accounting for, like the hypothetical I talked about with Jaden Blue, right? Like, there will be something that develops that we just can't quite see at this point in time that maybe allows for James Houston to make the 53-man roster. But when I was doing this, when I was putting this together myself, it was difficult. I mean, it was difficult to, I had to make some hard decisions. Izzy Mukwamu was one, like that. He's not in my safety or obviously my corner, lineup, as you can see. Like, there will, be someone who we're really bummed about. Like, there will be the guy who, will make it to the practice squad or whatever, but there will be someone who we're bummed about for the Cowboys to lose. And I hope it's not James Houston, but I had a difficult time, finding a spot for him. And I don't have Perion Winfrey, as you can see, at defensive tackle. I've got Osa Digizua, Solomon Thomas. I do have Mozzie Smith. I do have Jay Tuia. And I know a lot of you are probably going to be like, how can you keep Mozzie Smith? How can you not keep Perrion Winfrey? Whatever. Dude, I mean, I don't want to be like rude about this or anything, but I just don't. There's no merit to cutting Mozzie at this point in time. Like the money's already spent, like for lack of a better term. And this isn't about a sunk cost fallacy. This is about, like what, like is he? And maybe you think the answer to this is yes. And again, this is a tough conversation to have out loud, but like, is he that bad? Is he a hindrance? Is he a net negative that you would rather him not be on the team? I don't think it's that far. I know it feels that bad of a situation. And I think if you want to phrase it in a way that's more constructive, maybe he truly is that untrustworthy. And if that's the case, then there's merit to moving on. I completely agree in that particular sense. At linebacker, I've got 5 players. As you can see, I don't have DeMarvion Overshown. We already talked about that. And again, he's a part of the team. We all know that. But Jack Sanborn, Kenneth Murray, Damone Clark, Maris Liufau, and Shamar James. It's great to be a Florida Gator. I love the linebacker group as well. We talked about the cloak that Matt Eberflus provides that boosts this team. It is a very, very strong linebacker group. I mean, like, tell me the linebacker on the team, if I'm right here, that you feel not great about, right? Like, I think we really like the ceilings that these players offer. I know we haven't seen a ton of Sanborn and Murray, and we saw a little bit of Sanborn, but like I really kind of, again, trust them being in Matt Eberflus's hands. Damone Clark had a great moment in the preseason. So did Maris Liufau, and Shamar James has been great. Caught the interception that landed right on his arm, so good for him. But I love the linebacker group. Now at corner, I mentioned Trayvon Diggs. Brian Schottenheimer did say on Saturday that Trayvon Diggs is expected to begin the season, in his estimation, on the 53-man roster, not the PUP list. This is massive news. This is huge news. This is amazing news. And I know that corner is a place where we have all felt somewhat shaky about this team, but what I have said is that it is the biggest pendulum, swing shift room on the entire team, because in a moment, Trayvon Diggs is back. In a moment, Savon Ravella is back. And now all of a sudden, even with just Trayvon Diggs, now you're working with Diggs and Kyrie Elam on the outside, Deron Bland in the slot. Like, you feel, not bad. Maybe you don't feel great. I think you should, but you feel good, really good about the state of the cornerback room. So I don't think that the corner room is an issue. I know that it's a spot that there have been reports that the Cowboys might consider adding to, and I think that might be fair, and some of that depends on their estimation and assessment of Savon Ravella, because you certainly want to have some depth. But if they're able to, when Trayvon ultimately returns, whether that's week 2 or week 3 or even in week 4, I mean, that moment is pretty awesome when you have Trayvon Diggs, Kyrie Elam, and Deron Bland, and that's why I feel pretty good. I feel like B+ to A- about the state of the cornerback room for the Dallas Cowboys. But okay, so that's my corner room. So we'll see how they handle Savon Ravella. Remember, at the moment, he is on the NFI list, and the reason he's not on the PUP list, as we talked about when training camp began, is because his injury occurred when he was not in the NFL. Unlike Trayvon Diggs, he was in college, but it was technically a non-NFL related injury, obviously. And safety, excuse me. All right. Donovan Ezraku, Malik Hooker, Marquise Bell, Wanye Thomas, and as I mentioned, I do not have Izimu Kwamu, which was a tough thing for me. There are going to be cuts that we just cannot see coming right now. There are going to be decisions made that upset us. There are going to be, lots of details and intricacies to the final 53-man roster for the Cowboys, both the one initially and the one that happens as the dust settles and they apply all of their would-be moves and mechanisms, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very difficult and strenuous process. And I do want to say that I know it's fun, obviously, to get close to week 1 and it feels like football's back. College football is back. It is the best time of year, but this is a very difficult week. This is a very, very difficult day on Tuesday. You're talking about so many players across the NFL losing their jobs, losing their dreams, being told that their dream is over. That's a very difficult thing to square. We've all dealt with adversity in different ways, clearly not in that specific kind of way. So as we get closer and closer and closer to the deadline, I just would ask that we all remember that we all have as much grace as we can, and we all root for these guys wherever they ultimately wind up. Hope they wind up somewhere else, and hope they have opportunities to succeed and to thrive, as we obviously get excited about the group that the Cowboys are putting together. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of pack on up. My name is RJ Ochoa. You know where to find me on social media. I'm RJ Ochoa most places, rj.ochoa. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever the case may be. Make sure more than anything to like this video, subscribe. We got Dallas Cowboys stuff coming out all the time. I've got videos each and every single day. I know I didn't have winners and losers in the preseason game on Saturday. It got to be a busy day with the construction stuff in my home office, so apologies about that. But I figured we were going to be doing this 53-man roster, so it made sense to just kind of work and roll this way. So let's go ahead and let's get out of here. Thanks so much for hanging out, everybody, and we will see you next time.